What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Hot Take. Today we are in a 1991 Honda Civic Si. This is the codename EF hatch. It's a very clean car. Currently we're at the Great Lakes Vintage Honda Collection. We have tons of Hondas we are driving today. I'm very excited for this video. The owner told us this is a special green only offered for the 1991 model year, which is very cool. I feel like this green color is like classic Honda. When I think about the EF hatch, I think about this like very 90s, like almost teal-esque color. See these a lot on EGs as well. It's that perfect like classic Honda. It's not fast, but it has what you need. That sounds really good. So with that, let's go ahead and take this thing on the road and see how she rips. Classic Honda startup. So some initial impressions. Everything is extremely mechanical. Like even down to your throttle inputs, you really got to be careful with how you're inputting gas because it's sensitive to minute changes. If you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna make this thing ugga-dugga and jerk. So you need to be a good driver. But that's how cars were back, I mean, shoot, over 30 years ago. Let's say 1991, I mean, she's an oldie. Manual everything, including steering. Steering is very heavy. Feels good though, and it's very responsive. Green light. Clutch bite point is low. Still sort of getting used to it. Fair amount of body roll too. You'd be surprised because of how small the car is, but that's how cars were back in the day. I mean, body roll was how you made a car ride well. You put soft suspension on it and you kind of let the size do the talking. It's small, so inherently it's not going to handle poorly, but doesn't mean it's immune to problem you have with a car that has soft suspension. Oh man, this thing's great. The shifter, such a nice click into gear. It's very, very mechanical. I love old Honda shifters. They're just so amazing. And it's not like crazy notchy either. So a lot of people think that, they think Honda shifters are say like an NA Miata. An NA Miata has a great shifter, one of the best shifters out of any car, but it's very notchy. You put it and you get a nice click. This doesn't really have that. It has a click, but it's still sort of buttery. And I like that. It's direct, but not too in your face, screaming, hey, look at me, I'm a shifter. Which makes sense. I mean, this is a Civic Si. This is still supposed to be a normal car that you drove, unlike a Miata, which was a purpose-built car for fun, basically. Brake. Not a lot of brake there. But you didn't really need a lot of brake. I mean, look at the speed. It goes up to 125. And I'd be highly suspect of this car at that speed. There we go. Now I'm getting better at the clutch. The car is actually very quiet for what it is. I expected it to be much louder. Funny, foot flat to the floor. You don't really have a lot of torque, but it's great. It's Honda's thing. They want you to keep the RPMs up. We're still letting the drivetrain get up the temp a little bit, but just driving it around, it's a lot of fun. It just kind of reminds you, oh, hey, there's Chris. Just kind of reminds you of just a different time and how cars were built. Tons of body roll. Ah, that mechanical, no power steering rack is great. So heavy, meaty, responsive. Ooh, train tracks. Uh-oh. What's it beeping at me for? I feel like I'm getting like PTSD from the BMW warning chimes. Because like it beeps, and sometimes mine will beep when you go over a bump. and then the temperature will pop up and like the onboard computer is saying like, it's cold outside, there may be ice. This just beeped at me and I don't know why. It stopped beeping at me. I don't know what I did. If I was in any other car, I would have totally tried to pull out there, but I do not trust this vehicle has enough power to make that work. He gave us a thumbs up. Look at that. Everyone loves this car. Oh dear. Constantly beeping at me. Well, at highway speeds, you sit at a pretty high RPM, which is to be expected. I love the gearing in this car. It's like perfect. I think we're going to give the owner a call because this is now constantly going off and I am slightly concerned. So the owner instructed us that if we have the windows down and put that seatbelt buckle in, it'll stop. And it looks like that fixed it because I do not hear a beep anymore. Oh, the steering rack is so heavy. Well, I think that's as good as it's gonna get. We're just gonna we're just gonna live with it. It's an 80s car. Well, a 91. Sort of an 80s car. 80s car continued. You live with little quirks and features, as Doug DeMuro would say. This car is a bit hard to maneuver at low speeds because of the lack of power steering. Of course, some of you commenters may just call me weak. It's not fast, but it's great. Perfect Goldilocks fun. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, the beep has gotten marginally better. Oh man, I love this thing. I get why people like EF hatches. We just laid out our foot flat in first, a little bit in second, entered third. We're going 40. It's great. It's a very usable power for the street. You get to ring the car out. It's very similar to a Miata, but this is a little more refined than a Miata. It's got a bit of that Honda flavor. God, it's so amazing. I love it. Third gear is such a great gear to ring out. To be honest, I wasn't sure what to expect coming into this. Now, everyone loves the EF hatch, but the EF hatch has gotten a lot of notoriety for a lot of different things, and most of them are not how they drive in stock form. Usually it's how people modify them. But even in stock form, it's such a good package. It's a good little car. And it's fun. Perfect little city car. Go for 3.2. Ease your way in. So every time you make like a quick movement, it starts beeping again. But it's cars like this that make sitting in traffic just interesting. You know, you don't have to really be ringing this car out to have fun. It's just, it's old. I mean, all these dials are all, you know, they make a nice click. They have nice feedback to them. This is just a fun car to kind of bomb around in. Oh, and that shifter, so amazing. One of the things that's a little unnerving is all the bigger cars flying by you. flat foot driving. Oh, it's awesome. Love it. It's so easy to drive too. I'm ignoring the heavy steering, but I mean, it is a light car. Once you get moving, like, it's all right. But the pedals are really easy to use. The shifter is amazing. Everything's amazing. All the stocks, they have a nice feedback to them. Already pro driving this thing. Super crisp 3.2. I mean, look at that. Also love that everything in this car is mechanical. Like, even mechanical mirrors, crank windows, like, it was a different time. I mean, that's just how cars were made. We have finished our test drive of the 1991 Honda Civic Si, and it was a lovely experience. The car is so light, so nimble. I've never driven anything that's quite this sort of feel. I mean, this doesn't weigh that much more than 2,000 pounds, and the closest thing I can really compare it to is a Miata, but unlike a Miata, this is a bit taller, and it feels more like a regular car, which is really cool, because a Miata was a purpose-built car, whereas this was just what people drove. This was just a fun car to drive, but it's so easy, it's playful, you get to use the power everywhere, and it's an awesome experience. Huge thanks to Great Lake Village Honda for letting us try this thing out and all the other cars we're trying out. So with that, let's go ahead and give the 1991 Civic Si a score. The score is as shown. It scores lower than the other Honda Civic Si's we've tested so far, but this is no surprise. As fun as it is, this ultimately is a slow old car with less tech and usability than the newer stuff. Should you buy it? The EF hatch was the end of an era for Honda. The last Civic Si ever made without Vtec. Going into this, I wasn't sure what to expect. Vtec became synonymous with Honda and their engines. And a modern performance Honda, Vtec is one of the main defining characteristics of the driving experience. But what if you take that away and strip the name? Answer: you're still left with a very tossable chassis and a car that is a joy to drive, even around town. The dollar to performance for these is abysmal, but that isn't really the point. This is a car with no gimmicks. It's just you, a drivetrain, and a chassis. And I wouldn't want this car any other way.